Hello, everybody. It's Kelly and Jim from the X-Files Preservation Collection, and we are delighted tonight to be speaking with Jeffrey Cahn, Assistant Editor from the X-Files. Hello, Jeff. How are you tonight?
Hello, guys.
How you doing, Jeff?
Hi. How are you?
Awesome. We're so excited to be speaking to you tonight.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for asking.
Yes, definitely.
So, Jeff, tell us a little about yourself. First, really tell us how you got into this industry.
Well, I started in New York in 1975, and then I moved out here in 78 to LA. And it was very difficult getting in. I knew no one. I didn't even know anyone out of the industry. I always say that I came out with my wife in a covered wagon, and we just landed in Hollywood and started knocking on doors.
Right.
The hardest thing was getting into the union. At that time, the union, it was easier to put your head through a brick wall than to get into the union.
Wow.
I know, there was nepotism. If you knew somebody, a relative who could get you in, fine. But I knew not a soul. Nobody in the industry, nobody even in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Complete stranger in a strange land. But I got on a show called Cosmos with Carl Sagan. Worked on that show for a year. I don't even know if I ever told Chris that I knew Carl Sagan and worked with him. Because I used to talk about aliens with him.
Awesome.
Something he didn't believe in at all.
Oh.
Well, he believed there were life forms somewhere in the universe, but that no one here actually ever had a close encounter with anybody. But he did. He was open for life in other places. So I actually organized KCET, which was the station that we were working Cosmos out of, and that's how I got into the union. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
And then from there, your credits are amazing. So,
Yep.
I mean, you did a slew of shows that you want to name a couple for our followers?
Well, I have to tell you that about 15, 20 years ago, People Magazine and TV Guide ran the same type of story, the 50 best shows in television history. I think I was like on 5 of them.
I believe so.
The X-Files, of course.
Yeah.
Hill Street Blues, Cagney Lacey, St. Elsewhere, Happy Days, Winds of War, a lot of TV movies I worked on.
Yeah.
Remington Steele, The White Shadow.
Wow, you don't hear that pop up too often, The White Shadow.
Yeah. I started with a color in the title, The White Shadow, and my last show was Orange is the New Black.
That's ironic, right?
It's pretty funny, you know.
So how did you eventually ending up with the X-Files?
Well, that's a really interesting story. Usually between all these television shows I told you about, I would have like 2 months off, and I was lucky. A lot of guys have much longer time. They're unemployed. I would have like 2 months off. Prior to getting hired on the X-Files, I was out of work for 4 months. I was starting to get very nervous. So my name was out there that I was looking. Heather McDougal, who was one of the editors on the X-Files, her assistant editor had to leave suddenly. So she heard my name somewhere and she called me up, and this is crazy. This is a Friday. She calls me up. "You're looking for work, I heard. Are you available to start Monday on a new show called The X-Files?" And she was really busy. This was a very hurried and harried telephone call. So I said, yeah. I said, okay, go to Fox on Pico. Building 662 is our editing shack. And I'll see you there Monday at 9 o'clock. And I had a job.
There you go.
So I called my friend in New York and I say, hey, I got a job. And he says, what is that? What show? I said, something called the X-Files. I swear to you guys, in this Harry telephone call with Heather, I don't believe I even asked her what it was about. It wasn't important. I was out of work for 4 months.
Right.
It didn't matter. So he says, what show did you say? I said, something called the X-Files. He said, have you seen that show? I said, no, I don't even know what it's about. He said, Jeff, they've had 2 episodes on the pilot. He didn't know the titles, but he
Right.
said the first one and the second one,
Yeah.
Pilot and Deep Throat. He said, it's great. He said, it's on tonight. This was a Friday.
Yeah.
Yep.
On tonight, watch it tonight. I watched it and it was squeeze.
Oh, yeah.
I got to tell you, I still get like chills that what a show. It was fat. I couldn't believe that I got hired on a show like this. So Monday, I go to work, and one of the first things that Heather has me do is some Xeroxing some script pages. So I go into the Xerox machine was in, I think it was Howard Gordon's office. And I don't know anybody, and nobody knows me. And I'm there's Xeroxing. And there's a bunch of guys, people talking in the office. And I'm listening and I'm overhearing. And I figure out, I surmise that 2 of these guys that are talking are Glenn Morgan and Jim Wong.
Oh.
I go, hey, excuse me, are you the 2 guys that wrote that show Friday night? And it was either Jim or Glenn says, why, you hated it? And I said, hey, what? I said, it blew me away. It was fantastic. And I go, really? And I go, why are you so surprised at this? You guys wrote it.
Yeah.
Because we had so much trouble with that show. And to this day, I swear to you, I don't know what trouble they had. I think I must have asked them, but I don't remember. I don't know if it was in the writing or the production or the post-production. They go, it was like the first time they heard somebody tell them,
A compliment.
people that worked on the show, that it was great. I mean, it was a great episode. Unbelievable, the squeeze.
Yeah.
So
Chris has said that nobody really thought the show was going to last more than a season.
well, yeah, I mean, all of us were thinking, the producers, the writers, and I can't speak for everybody, but the impression that I got was that we thought, this is not going to last. Nobody's watching this. And then when we got the back 9 to finish out the full season, it was like, everybody was like, I can't believe this. And suddenly, instead of like, we were always laid back. The show was always laid, the producers, the writers, but it was now like, oh, we really have to work. And I remember sitting in the editing room with Howard Gordon and his partner at the time, Alex Ganza. And they were sitting on the couch to go, oh, we got to come up with ideas. And they were knocking ideas back and forth. And I go, hey, why don't you do a ghost story? And they go, oh, we're never doing ghost stories. Well, when Howard wrote Kaddish, it was kind of, the golem, it was kind of a ghost thing. But I felt we're not like ghost stories.
Yeah.
But let me tell you about my first week.
All right.
So I'm there a week. The last day of the week, on Friday, 1013, Chris's production company giving out T-shirts, black T-shirts. It said the X-Files on the back, probably had the logo. And that weekend, I go to the mall with my wife. And I still can't believe this. We're walking through the mall and I hear footsteps like running behind me. And I go, Mister. And I turn around and I go, what? And they go, where'd you buy that shirt?
Uh,
I go, there is nothing for sale. I mean, there was no merchandise at the time.
It could have been me.
it would have been you if you.
Where'd you get that shirt? And I said, well, I work on the show. Oh, well, can I buy it from you? And I said, I'm not going to walk around in the mall, bare chested. I'm not going to sell you my shirt. So they leave, and I'm walking with my wife. We continue on, and I say, Barbara, this is unusual. There was only, let's see, so I started, the Squeeze was the show that was on that Friday. So there was only 4 shows on.
Yep.
Next Friday was the 4th show. I think Conduit, or I'm not sure. So I go, Barbara, I worked on a lot of hit shows.
Yeah.
I had merchandise that said the name of the show. Nobody ever ran up to me and wanted to buy it off my back.
That's crazy.
So I said, there's something, I just felt something that was something different in the air,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, in the coming weeks, I would go to Starbucks. The show was on Friday night. I would go to Starbucks every Saturday morning. And this never ever happened before or since. I would overhear people talking about last night's show. And it would happen every week, every Saturday, I would hear it. And I never told these people I worked on the show or anything else. I was just hearing them talk about the previous episode. And after a few weeks, I realized that I was part of something special.
Yes, you were.
And it became a cultural phenomenon.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
At the end of the first season or the second season, Mary Astadorian, who started out as Chris's assistant, but wound up being, I think, president or vice president of 1013, she said, she comes in the editing room and she says, we want to have a presence on the internet, which was a brand new thing. The internet was a new thing.
Oh, it was very new.
X-Files wants to have a presence on the internet. And we would like you and Sue Kessler, my co-assistant editor, we'd like you to go on the internet on this Delphi and talk to the fans. And I said, Sue and I were already on the internet, And I said, Mary, I don't know anything about Delphi, but AOL, America Online, which was the biggest thing at the time, and like the only thing except for Delphi or whatever. I said, there's already chat rooms in X-Files, and we're already talking to those people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She said, great, continue, and answer their questions and you'll be nice to them. Well, we're not going to be bad to them, So that's how my association with the fans started. Plus, out of all the shows that I worked on, X-Files was the only series that I was a fan of. I love that show. And, I always had access to the next scripts. There were always 3 editing teams, 3 editors and 3 assistants in the first 2 years. Starting in the 3rd year, both the assistants would assist all 3 editors. But I had access to all the upcoming scripts. I never wanted to read,
I was going to ask you that.
I was not a person that would give spoilers. 1013 did not have to worry about me giving. They worried about spoilers, but they're not going to get them from me because I didn't read the upcoming scripts. I wanted to know what was going to happen. I wanted to be entertained.
Yeah.
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 So,
As a fan of the show, that's the only downside. If you work on the show, you don't get the anticipation and stuff that we had sitting there waiting for Friday.
Right. I know. Yeah. So that's how my association with the fans started. The third season, they had now they might have had conventions or something around the country, but they had a convention or whatever you call it in Burbank at a hotel across from the Burbank airport. And there were thousands of fans. People came from Europe, and they had an auction for different, things. One of them was the Rolling Stone magazine cover with Jillian and David and Chris on the cover. And they signed, it was signed previously. This woman from England, she flew from England and bought the script, won the script in the auction for like $1,600. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, us X-File collectors we're nuts. We are crazy.
yeah.
A little nuts, yeah.
And it's, that cultural phenomenon. I mean, 30 years later, you're talking to me 30 years later about the show. And I just can't believe how fast it went and how it's still, an exciting thing for all the fans.
Yeah, it's still relevant today. As you were saying, the lady came from overseas back then. Well, in our museum, we're getting people from Germany, Australia, Indonesia. They're flying
New
over
Zealand,
New Zealand. They're flying
Brazil,
yeah.
Ecuador. They come just to see the museum. It's
They
crazy.
come, Texas and California, it's still thriving.
We have people come in that can't even, like, he had someone from Italy or France that couldn't speak English
I think it was
and had to use Google Translate as he took him on the tour.
Really? Wow.
The fandom has not died at all.
right. Absolutely not.
They're all still out there. We're all still out there.
It's great. So I don't know if it's the second season. I think it was the second season. Chris had a little Christmas party in his office. And we're talking to the fan. Now, Sue and I were invited to the party, and we knew it started at a certain time, but we were talking to the fans in the editing room, in the computer.
Right.
And we're talking to a fan in Los Angeles. Just so happens it was in Los Angeles. And I say, Sue, we gotta go. We gotta go to the party in Chris's office. And she says, invite this girl. Invite this girl. She lives. Invite her. I can't invite a stranger to the party.
Yeah, right.
And she says, well, you don't even have to tell Chris. Just bring her. All right.
You only live once.
We invite this girl. We get her a drive on and a pass. And we tell her where the Chris's office is.
Wow.
Could you imagine?
No.
You would be like,
I mean, you would have seen this girl's eyes open. When we walk in, I introduce her to Chris. Chris loved the fans. Chris had an open door policy. I mean, we had fans hanging out all the time at 20th Century Fox, at his office, at our editing rooms. I mean, nobody was ever shooed away. No one. Paul Radwin used to invite fans over. So we go into Chris. I don't know who's going to be there. So there's Nick Leah, there's Mitch Pileggi, there's Darren Morgan.
can you imagine this?
And this Chris. And David Duchovny calls in. He's on the speakerphone. This girl is sitting on the couch, fan, just with her eyes open, her jaw dropped, And Chris didn't mind at all. And that was like the beginning of fans, not from our invitations, but they got in. And
You maybe didn't live in California back then.
It was a dream.
Yeah. Yeah, so we were always associated with the fans. As a matter of fact, when I worked on Fight the Future, Steve Mark was the editor and Rob Bowman, of course. I'm not sure about the 200 people on the film crew, but I think we were like the 3 people out of the editing room that were invited to work on the movie. So we set up the editing rooms and all the things that we have to do and what's going to happen for like a month prior to they actually rolled any film. Everybody has their script, but I don't have mine. I certainly need the script. I'm going to be digitizing all the dailies and setting up everything. I don't have my script. So I get a call from Chris. He says, come down to the office. So I walk down to the office and he says, you're probably wondering why you're the last person on this whole movie to get the script. So yeah, I was kind of wondering it. He says, because you talk to the fans. And I'm really paranoid and worried about anything about this movie getting out. So I said, Chris, you know, I'm not going to say it. And he says, yeah, I'm just so nervous, you know. So Chris gave me his script and I was like the last one to get.
Awesome.
And if you see before even the dialogue and the story starts, there's a warning here,
Oh,
you know, do not let anybody know anything about this. Don't show this to anybody and whatever before even the story starts. And every page, whoever worked on the movie had their name stamped on every page. And it's unread, red because supposedly you can't Xerox it if it's red. I've never tried.
huh.
So I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Fight the Future, where does the name Blackwood come in?
That a lot of movies, they'll use a different name in production, so nobody knows, you know, that it's really the X-Files or whatever. In Los Angeles, when they shoot all the time, you'll see street signs directing crew,
Yep.
arrows and stuff, and they never have the name of the show. They make up some bogus name because they don't want to have, you know, a popular show name and fans coming to the set.
Yep.
So Blackwood this whole thing was supposed to be done so nobody would find out about anything. You know, Chris was really, really nervous about this. Please do not leave this script anywhere, you know.
That is a really, really thick script.
Yeah, this is the movie.
Is that edited or unedited?
This is unedited. This is prior to anything was shot. But it's also thick because these red pages are like twice the size of a normal white page.
We have at the museum, we have the unedited complete storyboard cards.
Yeah. The visual effects for Fight the Future was like the last thing that they did. So we worked on it a year, we edited it for a year. As it progressed, where we needed to have something in the story, in the film, as it progressed, we had storyboards. You might have those. We filmed storyboards, and then we had little animatics where it was little animated type of things. And but there was they saved that for the very last. I guess they wanted the whole film to play, you know, before they dropped in those special effects. speaking of special effects, people used to say to me when I worked on the X-Files or even after, oh, you must have had a ton of visual effects in those episodes. No,
No.
No,
we were lucky if some of the episodes had one. And
Right.
it usually was a simple thing of there's Mulder, he looks up to the sky, shot of the dark black night sky. And we would call Matt back in, and it was the visual effects guy, a producer, and they'd say, hey, Matt, Mulder looks up, there's supposed to be a UFO that goes from left to right. And he said, all right, tell me the time code of where that starts. Tell me the end time code. All right, we'll put a UFO in there. When we started introducing black oil, then we started to get into more visual effects. And I think that black oil started with like worms or some type of
Yep.
thing creeping up, Yeah, so that's when we started a little more with the visual effects. Now, from going from every other episode having one effect in it, in the 7th season, we did a show called First Person Shooter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't that, you tell me, wasn't that they were like in a computer thing?
It's not inside a video game like.
Yeah. That had 100 visual effects in it. And that we went from like 1 or 2 to 100, And when there was nothing going on in the editing room, when they moved to Los Angeles, starting at the 6th season, right? They moved to Los Angeles.
Yep.
When there was nothing going on, I'd go down to the set. And I usually didn't know what I was going to walk into. That first person shooter, there's a shot of Maitreya, jade blue Maitreya.
Yep.
She's got 2 real machine guns that they're photographing her shooting these, and they're shooting blanks. And everybody, including the cameraman, those white, like kind of picnic tables, they fold up, they're like 7 feet long.
Yep.
They had a wall, a barrier, everybody on the crew. And I wasn't prepared for that. Everybody had sound canceling headphones, and because the noise of those things, those guns, they were real machine type guns, automatic weapons. And everybody go, duck, as I walk on the set, duck. Everybody is ducking down behind these things. And I'm like, So I don't know what's going on. I run for it and I duck down, but I don't have those
The headphones.
So it was crazy. Another time that caught me off guard during Fight the Future, I go, okay, I got some time to kill, go on one of the sets, see what's going on there. I walk on, the whole set is frozen. It is frozen. They're shooting Mulder and Scully on the ice. And they had snow and ice, and the temperature, they were like below. I don't know how they turned that studio, that whole giant studio,
Crazy.
into an ice box. And everybody is like in winter stuff, and down jackets and things and scarves and stuff. And I walk into my t-shirt. And that's where, Mulder and Scully are on the ice, and it starts breaking, and they're running, and they have close-ups. That was all done on that set,
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know how Jillian and David did it. They had just the clothes on their work. Oh, I had to get out of there. It was so freezing.
Yeah. That's crazy. Walk down there, you never know what you're going to walk into.
Exactly. Yeah.
So one day in the evening, Barry Astadorian comes in and says, "Hey, you know, we hired this new actor. His name is Mitch Pileggi. He's going to play this character named Skinner. He's a nice guy. Well, I want to take him out to a bar down Pico and down the street. You want to come?" Frank might have been there. I don't know. There was like four of us. I think it was probably Frank. And I'm sitting there. I don't know who this guy is. Just an actor, you know. And we're at the bar and we're just, you know, schmoozing and stuff. And you don't know what the future is going to bring. Here's a guy who just got hired, and he becomes a character. I mean, one of the most important characters in the show, Skinner.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so funny. When the show moved to Los Angeles, David used to hang out in the editing room. Dean Haglund used to hang out.
Wow.
Jillian, I don't think the only time she ever came into the editing room was when she wrote and directed All Things. And she had a different, you know, I mean, David and Jillian are both great. They have different personalities. Dave, this is just my, you know, from my knowing them. David seems to be an extrovert. Jillian is an introvert. She's a lovely, sweet, and funny person, but kind of keeps to herself, you know. And David is more outgoing. So when let me step back. Because David started first with The Unnatural.
Right.
And when he came in to edit, the editing room door was always open. You know, and he would walk from the set into the editing room. Jillian, when she did her All Things, got a golf cart. Somebody would ride her in a golf cart she never walked to. David would walk over, usually holding a basketball or something, and Jillian would be driven in a golf cart. When David edited, the editing room door was always open. Anybody could walk by and peek in. When Jillian was editing, door was shut. But that's just two different personalities, and the styles are working.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yep.
I was on the set when forget his name right now. Who was called Kolchak? Darren McGavin.
Yeah, Darren McGavin.
I was on the set when Darren McGavin worked for the last time.
Wow.
He went home. He shot this was for The Unnatural. He played Arthur Dales or somebody like that. Yeah. He shot his scenes with David. I think it was in Arthur's apartment. Shot his scenes, went home, had a massive stroke.
Aww.
Never worked again. Now, if you look in IMDb, they will have credits that after his stroke, but those were stuff that was shot prior. I was on the set the very last day that he worked.
It's amazing. Like, that's a person that, like, we would have loved to have been able to meet. That's like amazing to us.
Yeah, because
He started out as a Kolchak fan.
Yeah.
And then found the X-Files.
And I'm way older than you guys.
Yep.
I was a fan when he was on a show called Riverboat.
Yep.
Like the 1950s, I think, you know.
That one I didn't hear of.
Yeah.
So,
I was always a fan, and I used to watch Kolchak, The Night Stalker. You know, another serendipitous thing about getting on the show is, as a little kid, I always there were these series of books about strange things. I forget the name of the book, and I forget who wrote it. But these strange type of weird things that you would see on the X-Files, and especially UFOs.
Yep.
I loved UFOs. The poster, I Want to Believe, I believed when I was a little kid. Nobody could ever talk me out of that, So getting on this show was like, oh my God, this is just so many strange things, good things, happened. When I was working on Fight the Future, a lot of times the editor, when he's editing, will think, I need a line from this character. So Steve Mark would say, okay, Jeff, record this line. We're going to write this line. This is for Martin Landau. What was the name of his character?
Criswell.
Criswell. Yeah. He said, record this. And I always tried to imitate their voices, And when Martin Landau had to come in months later to do ADR looping, and they play back the line and they say, okay, you got to read that line that's temp line that you just heard. And I'm in the booth. I actually didn't even know that my line was going to come up when I came down to see him, to see what he looked like and go in the booth. My line comes up and he goes, who did that voice? Because I imitated him. I was able to get his voice down.
Yeah.
And he said, who did that voice? He says, oh, he's here right now. That's Jeff Cahn in the booth. And he goes, bravo. So that made me feel good.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Do you have any episodes that you really were excited for? That you were working on?
Or that stand out
in your mind?
There were so many great, unbelievable episodes, and here's actually a couple of things that when I said there were 3 editors and 3 assistants in the beginning, this was not my episode, my team. This wasn't Heather and myself. This was Steve Mark and his assistant. And it was a show called Ice. And it was one of the early shows in the first season.
Yeah.
And Steve comes next door and he says, hey, Jeff, come here. I want you to look at these dailies. It's by a new guy named David Nutter, young guy. They were all young. And I was, wow, this is unbelievable stuff. And, we had such great directors, not the guys that you just hire off the street and they do an episode and gone. I mean, these were Rob Bowman. This was, David Nutter. Then the next year, the second year, Kim Manners came in. I mean, one of the episodes that I was on that blew me away, I forget the name of it. Rob Bowman shot it. And there's Mulder and Scully on a tarmac at an airport in their car. And an airplane flies right over. How did Rob Bowman get that? I don't believe this was a visual effect. An airplane flies right over the car. It was just stunning stuff.
Yeah. Rob Bowman he did direct some amazing episodes.
Yeah. And, also, I'm sure you've heard that Glenn and Jim were called the Wongs.
Yep.
One day, the very first season, Chris's first assistant was a woman named Joan. And I walk into Chris's office, the outer office, just to BS with Joan. And I have no idea why I even said it, what it meant. I just go, hey, where are the Wongs? Because I didn't see Jim and Glenn around. She busts out laughing. She's hysterical. Oh my God. It's not even, to me, it wasn't even funny. I mean, it really didn't even make any sense. Well, that got up to Canada, and they were known as the Wongs all those years. A few years ago, I went back to Fox, the very first time I was there since the X-Files ended, I think 2002. And I'm on a golf cart riding around looking at the changes that was made at the studio, and who's approaching is Jim Wong and his daughter. And we're talking, and I say, hey, Jim, you ever know why you guys were called the Wongs? He said, no, it's the craziest thing. I have no idea how we got that name. So I tell him the story I just told you, but that's actually how it happened.
Funny, interesting.
Right. He gets credit with that now.
Yeah.
So I'm working, and one night I'm in the work, unbelievable hours, crazy hours. There was so much work on that show, especially when Fox cut it down to 2 assistants instead of 3. And the 2 assistants are working on every episode. So Chris comes down, and he wanted to look at, everything was like on VHS, you know, so we had a whole bank of VHS, and we wanted to see something. And he had just directed The List, a show called The List.
Yeah.
And he says, hey, what do you think of my directing on that? I don't know, it was okay. and he says, what do you mean okay? I said, yeah, I mean, you've done better. I mean, I think he did one big show, but prior to that, I forget which one, but I said, yeah, this one's okay, you know? And he seemed to be upset about it. And I put my hand on his shoulder. Okay, Chris, don't worry about it. You know, you win some, you lose some. And I put my hand on his shoulder, and he you know, I go home, I tell my wife, I'm fired. I'm fired. I told Chris what I thought of the show. You know, I was the type of guy, in all the 41 years I worked, I didn't yes anybody. I didn't BS anybody. It's a collaborative medium. If a lot of people, even though it's a collaborative medium, they don't want to hear what you have to say, you don't, or the truth. The truth is out there. So anyway, I go, I'm fired. So the next day I go in, and Chris calls me into his office. Hey, come up here, I want to talk to you. Oh, here I get my pink slip. And he goes, hey, you want to make some extra money? I go, yeah. He says, I don't like, Fox had a vendor that they were contracted to cut down all their shows for syndication. He says, you know, I gave this group the pilot. I don't like what they did with it. I want you to supervise. You can't actually edit because they're contracted to this company. I want you to supervise. I want you to get everything that they cut. I want you to look at it. I want you to make changes. I want you to supervise all the 9 years of the syndicated versions of the X-Files. So instead of fired, he gives me a promotion. When we're on the Fight the Future, Chris comes into the office. He was busy with the 5th season and writing and all that stuff. And he came into the editing room. We worked on that show for a year. So he wasn't there in the editing room every day on Fight the Future. He comes in one day to look at something. And he says, so what's going on with the syndication? So I said, you know, I decided to cut Scully out of the 4th season. Well, if it works, I trust you. So, I mean, yeah. One time I said to Chris, I would always joke around with him.
Yeah.
I said, hey, Chris, you know that the 3 most important people on this series were born in the same month, just 2 days apart? He said, yeah. I said, yeah. I think David was August 7th. Jillian was August 9th. And he goes, well, who's the third person? And I go, me, August 11th, which is the truth. So, yeah, so many memories, so many stories, you know.
Well, it definitely sounds like you guys had fun while you were working.
Oh, it was great. It was great, you know, and it was kind of like working. It's hard to explain. Being on that show was like breathing rarefied air. You were part of something really special. You know, I once went to the chiropractor, and there was like 3 chiropractors in that place. So the waiting room was crowded. And I'm sitting there, and I notice across there were other patients waiting there. And I hear, you know, that guy over there, he works on the X-Files. So that woman, one of the patients came over to me and asked me for an autograph. And it wasn't the last time. Not the last
I
time.
believe it.
I remember signing somebody's cast, you know, had a broken arm. Assistant editor, you know. But I did edit Vince Gilligan's last X-Files episode, the Brady Bunch show.
Sunshine Days. Yeah.
You know, and all of the whole staff for 9 years. And I'm not just saying this. I mean, I could really say anything I want about them. What are they going to do? Fire me?
Yeah.
So,
Right?
they were all, nobody really, I mean, everybody has an ego, but nobody showed their ego. Nobody was impressed with themselves. Everybody was like a nice guy, a nice person, treated everybody nicely. And what I loved about Chris, now here's a young guy, and he only had a couple of things prior to the X-Files. There was most shows that I worked on, the producers have to have wall-to-wall music. They have to have wall-to-wall sound effects. And what that does is it hides stuff, you know, wall-to-wall music could either help a scene or could hurt a scene. Chris, what I loved about him was old school, even though he was a young guy. He wanted no music, basically no, just to hear sound of a car horn or something here and there, door knock. He wanted it clean. He wanted to be able to see the actors. He wanted to see how the story played. He didn't want anything disguising it or hiding anything. Wanted to see the editing. You know, that was old school. Because when I started, I worked with old school guys. You know, we were on an upright moviola. That was the editing machine. We had one picture head and one sound head. You couldn't put music in there. Couldn't really put sound effects in there. You know, and it was dry, totally dry. And that's how you really should see a movie, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely. I think, you know, that's probably one of the things that makes X-Files stand out, because everything else is so
Right.
not clean.
Right.
Yeah.
So were you surprised at all when you really, I mean, when it really sunk in that the X-Files exploded the way it did? I mean, it was just, it was the biggest massive thing. I mean, did it really surprise you? And what did you think about all that?
Well, I go back to Squeeze when I wasn't even on the show. I just got hired that day,
Right.
and I was blown away from that. And then I continued to get blown away. Now, yes, the fan reaction and the cultural phenomenon that grew, and it was just something I never experienced before. It was it was wonderful, and it was just so good. The guys were so talented, I mean, and I remember Frank and Mary came in at the end of the second season. And here's Frank. I'm not sure he ever even wrote anything before. He comes up with I think there's the episode called The End or something, with the submarine, the conning tower. I mean, unbelievable stuff. Frank, by the way, is I have such a warm affection for Frank. He doesn't even know this, but he's just lovely, lovely guy. Always had a smile.
Yeah.
Gentle guy. I always felt real. I always got a great vibe from Frank. But all the guys, everybody was nice,
Everybody that we've talked to so far has been awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody also said that it was like the atmosphere was like
More family oriented.
it was like a big family, which you hear all the time, but they meant it.
It was very down to earth. I mean, when the staff had somebody had a birthday party, Chris would have a cake, would come into his office, and when it got to grow, when the staff got to grow bigger and bigger, then there would be like a monthly birthday party for everybody that had a birthday that month. But it was always, I mean, Chris always had his office was always open, and I remember I came in there on a Saturday one time. I just had to catch up with work. And Chris always had a nice kitchen in his office, with drinks and snacks and stuff. So I go, the front door is open. I didn't know Chris was in there. I walk in there to the kitchen and I hear typing. So I go, "Hey, Chris, what are you doing?" He says, "Oh, I'm rewriting a show called Alpha." So I said, Jeffrey Bell, he wrote a character called Jeffrey Cahn. It's in, he said, "Oh, I'm well aware of that." So I said, no character ever mentions my name. So when you read the script, it says Jeffrey Cahn is a character. He says, "Oh, really? Nobody says your name?" Okay. And that was it. When the show was finally finished, Mulder is saying it, the character is saying it, Chris did that for me.
That was awesome.
Nice.
Definitely awesome.
See, we like talking to people like you, people behind the scenes. We got the X-Files Fan Fest that we got coming. We have one of the props guys, Chris Waddell. He worked up in the Vancouver years, and the stories he tells is just absolutely amazing, But that's the people who we really love to talk to, because it's just the inner workings behind the scenes stuff.
How it all came to be.
Right.
Oh, I do. You just said something that reminded me. After a few seasons, the writers themselves forgot pertinent facts about different characters. Maybe they forgot if they did something or if they held something or that. So Chris or Mary or somebody would come in, "Hey, Jeff, go on the internet, ask the fans when the last time a flashlight was used in the show," or something like that. So, and you go type on the computer, go in the chat rooms. "Hey, what did Mulder hold the flashlight last?" Oh, boom.
Yeah.
25 people would know.
Yep.
The question you're asking.
That's probably, I think the X-Files is the first show that had that interaction with the fans.
Basically, yeah, it was kind of, almost. I know I was in it.
I know you were in the chat room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many great things that I could tell you off the top of my head. Trying to remember some stuff. Oh, you asked me about episodes that really stood out for me.
Yep.
Again, another episode that I did not work on. It was already aired before I was hired. It was the second episode, Deep Throat.
Throat.
Well, I got to watch the pilot and Deep Throat to catch up when I went to work there. And a line that I've never forgotten and really moved me was in Deep Throat. Mulder he's on that track, he's running on that track, and Mulder, Deep Throat approaches him.
Yep.
Jerry Harden, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He delivers this line that really I've never forgotten. Mulder says, "They're out there, aren't they?" Something like that. And Deep Throat, Jerry delivered it great. He said, "Mr. Mulder, they've been out there a long, long time." Something to that effect.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it moved me because I believed that they were out there since I'm a little kid.
Yeah.
You know? So the way Chris wrote it and the acting, it was I just loved that line. But so many great episodes, and ones that Heather and I worked on. I mean, I can't even. There were so many good ones.
Yeah.
I can't even
That's true.
remember. You know?
Yeah. When people ask us our favorite episode, it's like ask me my favorite 5 or something, because there's no way I can pick just one.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I always heard, I never watched it as a kid, The Twilight Zone, but, you know, for years, The Twilight Zone, great show. So I've been retired now 7 years. So a few years ago, I bought all the Twilight Zone episodes. I think there was just 5 seasons. I watched them back to back. There are a lot of great episodes on that, but not as great. You take, you don't even include the 11 years the show was on. You take the first 5 years of X-Files and compare it to the first 5 years of Twilight Zone. X-Files wipes the floor with it. And when you talk to people, when they say the Twilight Zone, they can only remember 3 or 4 of them. When you talk to X-Files fans,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep. They know a lot.
Yeah.
Jim's like a X-Files trivia guy.
Well, you know, I mean,
I can't keep up with him. But.
I've only watched the entire series probably thousands of times.
Really?
You know, and it's 24/7 X-Files in my world.
Really?
You know?
That's like one of the, on all the reviews from the museum, one of the things that people always talk about is his tour and all his knowledge from the show.
Well, when people come into the museum, I just don't want them to come in and just look at stuff and read stuff. And, you know, I mean, you go to any museum, you know, and see dinosaur bones, you can see, you know, Van Gogh paintings and stuff like that. You know, I want to be more personal with them and, you know, really dig deep into their mind, because some people that come in are very hazy on the show. Some people have full knowledge, makes it a lot easier on me, you know, and, you know, it's a better experience for them.
I can't even remember as much as you know about the show. You know, it's individual episodes. I just remember that they were great.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You worked on my favorite episode.
Yep.
DPO. Do you remember that one?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite episodes. And we haven't talked much about that one.
Yeah. And 2 actors got started on.
Yep.
Jack Black and Giovanni.
Right. No, that was a great episode. I have 9 years of great episodes.
Yeah, exactly. How do you pick one, right?
Everybody that wrote it, directed, the editing staff. I mean,
you worked on a lot of the fan favorites too. Like you worked on Jose Chung, you worked on Arcadia, you worked on.
You worked on the episode Home.
Yeah, yeah. That was the 4th season, the first episode. Michael Stern cut that, did a great job on that show. That was an unbelievable, every fan knows the story about that. But after the show aired, Kim Manners comes, I'm sitting with Michael Stern in the editing room, and Kim Manners goes, last night or the Friday was, I don't even know when it was on, the Sunday or Friday. And he says, that's the last time this show's ever going to be seen.
Thank God that's not true.
They got so many nasty fan letters from church groups. It's disgusting. And Fox has banned it. It's never going to, it becomes, the #1 show that people always talk about when they talk about their favorite episodes. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked to the actress that played Ma Peacock that lived underneath the bed, Karen Conoval. She's going to be joining us at our fan fest, and she's an adorable woman.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah. Let me just take a look here. I mean, so many great shows. I mean, they were important shows too, that started the mythology, like the Erlenmeyer Flask.
Yeah.
And Dwayne Barry. I mean, that was a fantastic show. Just so many, One Breath, Endgame, and
I think we worked on Quagmire also. That's another big one.
Yep.
For me.
And that was with the dog.
Yeah.
With the dog and the like the Loch Ness monster kind of thing.
Yeah. And I mean, Darren Morgan and Vince and Glenn and Jim and Howard and and Frank.
Yeah.
And just
Bowman.
Yeah. Bowman didn't write though. I was talking about the writer.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It did some amazing stuff. Some of the episodes, you're like, how did they even think of such craziness?
And it was a feature film every 7 to 9 days, where the show got so big they had a second unit. And normally second unit just shoot things that are really non-essential without the main characters. The show got so big that second unit was using David and Jillian and the main characters in that. It was really,
and
how they it's just huge show, a lot of work. I was there till like 11 o'clock, sometimes 1 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
I remember Chris and Frank were waiting for him. It was really important that I would make an output of the show after it was edited, no matter what version it was, the editor's cut, director's cut, producer's cut, studio network run, whatever. I would make an output, and we'd always work late. And it's like Frank and Chris are in Chris's office waiting for this output. They had to have this VHS to show somebody or whatever. And I'm halfway through the output, and I get up to do something, and I trip over the power cord.
Oh no.
On the Avid.
Oh man.
I have to start all over again. But meanwhile, I go up into Chris's office, and they're exhausted. Frank and Chris are exhausted. I think I was through with that like at 1 o'clock in the morning. And, I say, hey guys, I tripped the power cord, oh. And they had to still wait for it. But they were just cool. They're just really cool guys. Chris would ride out. He had a white Toyota Land Cruiser, and he would, that's what he would ride to the studio. He had a surfboard on the top of it, and a good looking guy. Man, I always thought Chris was a great looking guy. How lucky to have a hit show that everybody loved. And you're the front of this. You're the guy that created that show and could go in front of the press and interviews, and you look fantastic. You know?
It all worked out, didn't it?
Right.
Yeah, he captured lightning in a bottle on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's basically my story.
Well, I have to ask you the question I ask everybody.
Yes.
Since you were a fan of the show,
Yes.
are you a Monster of the Week guy or a mythology guy?
Well, I was a Monster of the Week. As the mythology started to roll along, I love that too. I have to tell you, and I would tell Chris this too. After many years of the mythology, I thought it was getting so convoluted and hard to follow that in a way I feel like the producers painted themselves into a corner and did not know how to get out of it.
Right.
And the William character,
Yeah.
not a fan. Not a fan.
Yeah.
Nor are we.
Right.
No. So
Yeah, that wasn't our favorite. That wasn't our favorite storyline. But we're definitely Monster of the Week people anyway. So,
Monster, I always love the Monsters of the Week.
right?
Yeah, they're just like little mini movies. You just watch, the episode, and then
Right.
it's that. I love those.
Yeah. And like I said, the mythology, which you guys know, started with Jillian getting pregnant. That was really a lucky break.
Right.
And it was great for a while, but like I said, it ran its course.
Yeah, it did.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
All right, that about sums it up.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And you are more than welcome to share our information with anybody that worked on the show. We would love to talk to anybody from people behind the camera to the janitor. We really don't care,
Oh, let me tell you about the janitor. It's not the janitor, but one of the stages, we had a security guard. That's all. He was a security guard, nice guy. He told me that he printed up business cards with the X-Files logo.
Okay.
It did not say what job he had. It just listed his name and telephone number. And when he went to bars to pick up women, with business cards,
I bet it worked.
it probably did.
That show was pretty popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been fantastic. It was our pleasure.
Yeah. And if you're ever, on the East Coast and want to stop by the museum, we'd love for you to check it out.
I'm an East Coast guy. I'm a New Yorker.
All right.
But I haven't been back none of my relatives are left in New York. So I haven't been back there in many years. But believe me, when I do go back, I'll be up there.
Awesome.
How much is a ticket?
For you, it's free.
Oh, thank you.
We'll give you the VIP experience.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.